A black belt challenged a woman to spar, as a joke. But 30 seconds later, he wasn't laughing. The gym went silent. The coach dropped his clipboard. And what this woman did next turned her into a legend. This isn't just a story about fighting. It's about respect, assumptions, and the power of quiet strength. You need to hear this. It was supposed to be a joke, a light-hearted moment, just some fun. But what happened next silenced an entire room full of elite martial artists. Let's rewind to where it all began. It was a regular Thursday evening at Iron Fist Dojo, a gym that had earned a reputation for turning beginners into beasts and pros into legends. Known across the city, Iron Fist wasn't your average martial arts gym. It was a tough, no-nonsense training ground where serious fighters came to sharpen their skills. Inside, the air was thick with energy. You could hear the sharp slaps of kicks landing on pads, the grunts of fighters in mid-spar, and the intense commands of coaches shouting over the chaos. Sweat dripped, gloves slammed, and there was a certain rhythm to it all, the rhythm of discipline and respect. Among the regulars was Marcus, one of the gym's top fighters. A black belt, tall, muscular, and very sure of himself. He had the kind of confidence that filled a room the moment he walked in. And to be fair, he earned most of it. He'd won local tournaments, trained for years, and could hold his own against anyone in the gym. But Marcus had a flaw, his ego. He loved being the center of attention. He was known for showboating, throwing sarcastic comments, and sometimes challenging new people just for laughs. And that's exactly what happened the moment Jade walked through the door. She didn't enter with a bang. She didn't wear fancy GI or show any flashy moves. She walked in quietly, with a small gym bag slung over her shoulder, dressed in a plain black t-shirt and joggers. No makeup, no smile, just calm focus in her eyes. She was tall, athletic, and striking, but not in a loud way. There was something composed and self-assured about her, almost like she knew exactly who she was, and didn't need to prove it to anyone. Jade approached the front desk, signed in for a free trial session, and stood off to the side, stretching silently while watching the ongoing class. Most people didn't even notice her. That is, until Marcus did. From across the mat, he spotted her and immediately raised an eyebrow. "Newbie alert," he said with a smirk to one of his buddies. "Hope she signed a waiver." There was nothing malicious in his tone, just cocky amusement. Then, with his usual swagger, he jogged over to her. "Hey there," he said, trying to sound friendly but clearly putting on a show. "You here for the self-defense class?" Jade looked up, gave a half-smile, and nodded. "Trial session." Marcus grinned, glancing at the others around. "All right, cool. Tell you what, after warm-ups, how about a little light sparring? Just for fun." The tone in his voice made it clear he didn't take her seriously. A few of the other fighters chuckled. They were used to Marcus pulling stuff like this, playfully challenging newcomers, especially those who didn't look like fighters. And Jade? She didn't exactly fit the stereotype. No gloves, no fight stance, no aggressive aura. But Jade didn't back down. She simply replied, "Sure, light sparring's fine." Marcus blinked. "You sure?" he asked again, expecting her to hesitate. She didn't. With a quiet nod, she stepped onto the mat and began warming up. No fuss, no theatrics, just fluid, precise movements, stretches, footwork drills, quick shadowboxing. If anyone was really paying attention, they might have noticed something different in how she moved. There was balance, rhythm, efficiency. But Marcus didn't see it. He turned back to the group and laughed. "All right, I'll keep it light. Just hope she doesn't sue me if I sneeze and knock her over." Another round of chuckles followed. But within the next 20 minutes, nobody would be laughing, because what was about to happen wasn't just a sparring match. It was a wake-up call, a moment that would become gym legend. Jade didn't come to impress anyone. She didn't brag or boast. But in less than one round, she would humble one of the top fighters at Iron Fist and change the atmosphere of the entire room. The joke was over before it even started. During warm-ups, Jade moved with quiet precision, while others stretched with bursts of chatter and friendly banter. She was fully in the zone, focused, composed, and sharp. Her movements were graceful yet purposeful, like a dancer who knew every step before it was made. Each rotation of her shoulders, every lunge, every step of her footwork, nothing wasted, nothing extra. But to most in the gym that day, it didn't mean much. Marcus noticed her, sure, but not in a serious way. He exchanged glances with a few of his buddies, smirking. They whispered things like, "She's probably just here for cardio. Bet she saw UFC on Netflix and got inspired." Easy win for Marcus. The coach called everyone together. It was time for sparring drills, nothing aggressive, just technique-focused one-on-one rounds. Volunteers began pairing up. A few regulars stepped forward, some nervous newcomers hung back. And then, in his usual style, Marcus made his move. With a playful grin and a confident swagger, he pointed directly at Jade. "Hey, you're up." Jade paused only for a moment, her expression unreadable. "Me?" she asked, almost like she didn't hear him clearly. Marcus nodded. "Yeah, come on, let's see what you've got," he said, his voice carrying across the gym. He wasn't being cool, but he definitely wasn't expecting a challenge either. A few others laughed quietly. One guy even joked, "Someone call the medic in advance." Marcus added with a wink, "Don't worry, I'll go easy." Jade didn't laugh. She didn't even smile. She simply nodded. "Okay," she said softly, and stepped onto the mat. That's when the atmosphere shifted, just slightly. Nothing dramatic, just enough for the more observant ones to feel something off. A strange, still silence settled for a moment as Jade took her place across from Marcus. There was an unspoken tension now. Not from Jade. She looked completely calm. But Marcus? He suddenly looked like he wasn't as sure anymore. Maybe it was the way Jade moved onto the mat, balanced, stable. Or maybe it was how she kept her eyes locked on him, not with aggression, not even defiance, just focus. The coach raised his hand. Light contact only. Go when ready. Marcus bounced on his heels, keeping it light. Hands up. He was smiling again, clearly trying to keep the mood playful. Jade didn't move at all. She stayed still, one foot slightly back, her knees soft, her arms relaxed at her sides, but not limp. There was structure in her stillness, a controlled readiness. The bell rang. Marcus opened with a light jab. Nothing threatening, just testing the waters. Jade tilted her head slightly. No movement, no block, just observation. He followed with a half-speed front kick, again, more for show than impact. Jade leaned to her left, the kick missing by inches, her foot pivoting naturally, barely making a sound on the mat. Then she adjusted her posture, slightly lower now, hips engaged, hands coming up slowly. Marcus chuckled. Okay. She's got a little footwork." He bounced again, then threw a quicker jab cross combo, still light, but with more intent. This time, Jade parried the punch with a short, snappy wrist flick, shifted her weight, and, before anyone could even process it, delivered a perfectly timed sweep kick, not to knock him down, but just enough to trip his balance and force him to stumble. It happened so fast that Marcus had to catch himself mid-fall. The room froze. Now, people were paying attention. Marcus stood up straight, brushing it off with a laugh, but his eyes had changed. Gone was the playfulness. His smile faded just a little. He raised his hands fully this time. Now it was serious. He threw another combo, faster, sharper, a low kick, followed by a quick body shot. But again, Jade read every move. She dodged the low kick with a quick shift to the side, absorbed the body shot with a tight elbow block, and stepped inward. For a split second, she was inside his guard. With a blur of motion, she leaned forward and tapped the side of his neck with 2 fingers. It wasn't a hit, it was a statement. I could have ended that exchange right here. Marcus froze. No more jokes. No more winks. The entire gym was quiet now. Even the coach leaned in, eyebrows raised. Jade stepped back, allowing space. No arrogance. No celebration. Just calm, centered breathing. Marcus exhaled slowly, lowering his gloves. He wasn't embarrassed. He was awestruck. This wasn't some hobbyist. This wasn't a fitness enthusiast. This woman was a technician. A real fighter. And in just 1 minute, she had flipped the entire energy of the gym on its head. Nobody saw it coming. But now, No one could look away. As the bell rang, the room seemed to lean in, some out of curiosity, others expecting an easy show. Marcus was ready, still wearing that confident smirk, bouncing lightly on his feet, clearly believing this would be over in a minute or two. He made the first move, a quick jab to test distance, followed by a soft front kick aimed toward Jade's midsection. Nothing too hard, just playful. But Jade? She didn't blink. She didn't even seem fazed. Instead, with the smoothest of motions, she slid out of range, her feet gliding across the mat with a kind of control that only comes from years of disciplined training. Her pivot was so clean it almost looked like a dance move. She didn't just avoid the hit, she erased it before it could exist. That was the first crack in Marcus's confidence. His smirk faltered, just a bit. He adjusted his stance. Threw another jab, this time a little faster. Jade leaned to the side, eyes sharp, and again, slipped it effortlessly. Then, it happened. In a sudden explosion of motion, Jade spun, her body turning like a coil unwinding, and unleashed a perfect spinning back kick. It came from nowhere, fast, smooth, and laser-precise. The kick didn't land. It didn't need to. It stopped just inches from Marcus's ribcage. Dead center. Controlled. Intentionally held back. But it hit him like a truck emotionally. The impact wasn't physical. It was psychological. The gym went dead silent. Someone across the mat actually gasped. A couple of people stopped sparring mid-round just to watch. Even Coach Davis, a man who'd seen 1,000 fights in his life, dropped his clipboard in shock. Marcus blinked, stepping back instinctively. For the first time, he raised both hands, not to attack, but to defend. The cockiness was gone. This wasn't a game anymore. And Jade? She hadn't even broken rhythm. She reset her stance, centered herself, and waited. This time, she wasn't the one being tested. Marcus was. What followed next could only be described as a masterclass. Over the next 30 seconds, Jade transformed the gym into a canvas, and every step, every strike, every movement was pure art. Marcus launched into a real combo now. Jab, cross, low kick. Good speed, good form, but Jade wasn't just reacting. She was anticipating. She slipped the jab, parried the cross with a tight elbow deflection, and checked the low kick with perfect timing, countering with a lightning-fast leg kick of her own that clipped his thigh. Not enough to hurt, just enough to say, "I'm here too." Marcus advanced again, trying to pressure her. Body shots, feints, high kick. Useless. Jade's footwork was on another level. She circled out, cutting angles, her movements fluid and precise. She wasn't just fighting, she was dismantling him one move at a time. The crowd was silent, eyes locked. This wasn't a beatdown. It was a demonstration of mastery. One gym member whispered, "She's reading him like a book." At one point, Marcus tried a spinning back fist, clearly frustrated now, but Jade ducked under like she'd seen it coming in slow motion, stepping in and tapping him lightly on the shoulder with her glove. Again, not to hurt, but to remind him, I could have ended that. By the time the round ended, Marcus was gasping for breath, sweat pouring down his face. His once proud posture slumped just slightly. His footwork had lost its rhythm. His punches were slower, his focus shaken. And Jade? She stood tall, calm, breathing steady. Her eyes never broke from his, not with intimidation, but with a composed focus that said she never doubted herself for a second. Even the coach clapped slowly as the bell rang. Marcus looked at her, chest heaving, and finally gave a slow nod, not of defeat, but of deep respect. He'd come into that match thinking he'd play around with a beginner, but he left it knowing he'd just face a high-level technician, someone who didn't need a belt around her waist to prove her rank. The lesson had been delivered, not with brute force, but with skill, control, and humility. The moment the bell rang, signaling the end of the round, the silence finally broke. What started as quiet astonishment turned into something else entirely, thunderous applause. The gym, once filled with snickers and side eyes, was now erupting with claps, whistles, and nods of genuine respect. Even those who had chuckled earlier, who thought Jade was just a beginner trying her luck, were now clapping with wide eyes and open mouths. The energy had completely flipped. Jade, calm as ever, walked over to Marcus and extended her hand, not just to help him up, but with the quiet grace of a seasoned professional. Marcus, still catching his breath, accepted it with a smile that carried no ego anymore, just admiration. "Thanks," he said, shaking his head with a short laugh. "I needed that." Jade smiled, humble and relaxed. "Good round." And that's when Coach Davis stepped forward. He'd been quiet the whole time, observing like a hawk, eyes narrowed, mind ticking. This was a man who had trained hundreds of fighters over the years, and he knew talent when he saw it. But Jade was more than talent. She was polished, calculated, dangerous, in the most disciplined way. Coach crossed his arms, finally breaking his silence. "All right, I gotta ask," he said, raising a brow. "Where did you train?" Jade, always understated, shrugged lightly. "Brazil, Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu. Trained for about 12 years." There was a moment of silence again, not from disbelief, but from realization. People were now connecting the dots. The precision of her strikes, the composure under pressure, the control, the timing, the footwork, it all made sense now. She wasn't just skilled, she was seasoned. And Brazil? That was no small statement. That's home turf for some of the toughest fighters on earth. But there was more. Word started to spread quietly among the gym members. Some looked her up online, and within minutes, someone found it. Jade M., former Muay Thai national champion in Brazil, a competitor in international circuits, a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She had spent time training in Thailand, competed across Europe, and even taught seminars for female fighters in Africa. She had been in the fight world for over a decade, but had recently taken a step back to focus on life outside the ring. She'd moved into town just a few weeks ago and had come to Iron Fist Dojo for one reason: to quietly return to training. No ego, no announcements, no watch me energy. She didn't need anyone's approval. She didn't walk in expecting to prove herself, and she didn't walk out looking for praise. But her presence, her silence, and her skill did the talking for her. And maybe that was the most powerful part of it all. While many walk into gyms trying to be loud, flashy, or dominant, Jade had walked in and let her movement speak. She didn't posture, didn't flex, didn't challenge anyone. She simply trained. And when called upon, jokingly, she didn't hesitate. She just delivered. The respect in the gym was instant and real. Marcus approached her again later, more grounded than ever. "You're incredible," he said, shaking her hand properly this time. Jade smiled. "I'm just getting back into rhythm." Coach Davis nodded. "Well, welcome to the team. You've got a place here anytime." From that moment forward, everything changed. Jade became a quiet legend in the gym. New members would whisper, "That's the woman who silenced Marcus." But those who trained beside her knew she didn't silence him with power, she silenced him with mastery. And that's what made her unforgettable. After the session ended and the gym began to settle back into its normal rhythm, a rare thing happened. Marcus, the same man who once chuckled at the idea of sparring with Jade, walked across the mat toward her. But this time, there was no ego in his stride. No smirk. No playful attitude. Just genuine humility. He extended his hand. "Respect," he said simply, his voice honest. "I underestimated you. That's on me." Jade met his handshake with a firm grip and a warm smile. Not smug, not dismissive, just calm and gracious. "It happens more than you think," she said softly. "But I let my actions speak." And in that moment, there was no tension between them, only mutual respect. Marcus, a black belt who had once towered in pride, had been humbled not by a knockout or an embarrassing defeat, but by a woman who chose precision over pride, discipline over dominance. That night, people didn't just leave the gym talking about a cool sparring match. They left remembering a moment. And from that day on, Jade wasn't just another face on the mat. She became a quiet legend within Iron Fist Dojo. Newcomers would hear whispers, "That's the one who danced circles around Marcus." Others would point her out from afar, not daring to interrupt her training. And the regulars? They didn't see her as a fighter to fear, but one to learn from. What made Jade so unforgettable wasn't that she dominated a sparring match or made someone look bad. It was that she never tried to. She didn't mock, brag, or flex after the session. She didn't post about it on social media or boast about her background. She stayed the same, quiet, focused, humble, and in doing so, she left a deeper mark than any knockout ever could. Her story was shared again and again, becoming almost a rite of passage tale for new gym members. Why? Because it reminded everyone of something powerful. Never judge someone by how they look. Jade didn't walk in with a belt around her waist or a loud presence. She didn't try to prove herself with words. She let her skill, experience, and calm confidence speak for her. Never underestimate quiet strength. While others were loud and flashy, Jade showed that real power doesn't need to scream. It can whisper and still be heard louder than anything else in the room. And most of all, respect everyone, because greatness comes in many forms. And often, it's standing quietly in the corner, stretching before class, waiting for its moment, not to shine, but to teach. Coach Davis later shared his thoughts with the group during a seminar. He said, "Some fighters want to be the loudest in the room, but the truly dangerous ones, they don't need to say a word." Jade reminded us that character is just as important as technique. She didn't just win a sparring match, she raised the bar for all of us. Jade continued training at Iron Fist, never missing a session, always helping others without being asked. When someone struggled, she offered quiet guidance. When someone got cocky, she offered humble reminders. Through action, never attitude. And as the weeks turned into months, her legend grew, not in noise, but in impact. Because Jade didn't walk into the gym to prove herself. She walked in to be herself. And that was more than enough. So, what started as a joke turned into a moment no one in that gym will ever forget. Jade didn't raise her voice. She didn't throw wild punches. She simply showed up, stayed calm, and let her actions speak louder than anything else. If you love this story, hit that like button, smash the subscribe, and turn on notifications.